Sorry I didn't upload this episode on Halloween. Originally I wanted to talk about a different game series, but I didn't feel comfortable with where that one was going, so I decided to scrap that idea and talk about another game. I actually could upload something on Halloween, but the material I wrote wasn't perfect, so I decided to delay the video a bit. Why? Because it wouldn't be cool if I did this series injustice. Like a lot of gamers back in the 90s, I played and adored the old school Castlevania games. I consider Super Castlevania 4 to not only be the best old school Castlevania game ever made, but also one of the greatest games of all time. Its gameplay is flawless, its atmosphere is fitting, and the sound design is some of the best on the Super Nintendo. It's an amazing game in my opinion, and when it comes to video games, I don't use the terms great or amazing that often, unless I think it deserves those words. And trust me, Super Castlevania 4 deserves it. Instead of talking about that game though, I thought it would be nice to focus on another game in this series. So without further ado, let's get started. Let's talk about Castlevania Bloodlines. Castlevania Bloodlines is an action platforming game released in March 1994 for the Sega Genesis, and to my knowledge is the only Castlevania game to be released for the Genesis. Instead of being a straight-up port of Super Castlevania, Bloodlines is its own game, with a new story, new cast of characters, and some differences in the gameplay. Konami also did this with Contra as well, with both Contra 3 The Alien Wars for the Super Nintendo, and Contra Hardcore for the Sega Genesis. I should talk about Hardcore someday, because I love that one too. Now for the storyline. Normally I would skip this part, because for starters, when it comes to an action game, not that many people care about the story. And secondly, come on, it's a Castlevania game. Everybody knows the story by now. Dracula comes back from the dead, heads off into his castle to cause evil, and it's up to someone, possibly from the Belmont family, to stop Dracula before he, I don't know, reveals humanity's dirty little pile of secrets or something? Who cares about the story, right? Just point us to Dracula and his hired goons so that we can whip him good. From the looks of the intro to Bloodlines, it seems like the same deal, right? Well, I did some research into it, and by research I went to a fan wiki, and the story is actually really creative. From the intro to the game, you'd think it was about a countess attempting to resurrect Dracula, and that it's up to two bad enough dudes to rescue set out to stop her. But there's a lot more to it than that. The game takes place in 1917, and the villainess of this story is Elizabeth Bartley. I said Bartley, not Barclay! Anyway, Elizabeth Bartley assassinates the Crown Prince of Austria. This act, among others, was enough to spark World War I. But why would Elizabeth do such a thing, you ask? Well, she hopes to use the souls lost in the war to summon Dracula. So let me repeat that back to you. A vampire starts World War I because she wants to summon the Lord of the Night. That's pretty cool that Bloodline uses an alternate history aspect to its storytelling. That's not all though. The two guys that attempt to foil the Countess's plan? Well, John Morris, the wielder of that iconic Castlevania weapon, the Vampire Killer, is related to Quincy Morris. Yes, that Quincy Morris. Castlevania, up until Bloodlines, has used Bram Stoker's Dracula only for inspiration, but Bloodlines actually takes it further by using some aspects to Bram Stoker's book in this game, making both Dracula and Castlevania blood-related. In all seriousness, this connection is actually pretty cool. So, okay, you know what's going on, but how does the game actually play? Well, let's not waste any more time with the story and let's just jump into the gameplay. Castlevania Bloodlines is like any of the other old school Castlevania games. You progress through the level, jumping over hazards, attacking enemies, whipping candles for goods, and destroying broken walls for either pork chops or other items. Wall chops. So yeah, same old, right? Well, there are some unique features that separate this from the other NES games and Super Castlevania. Before the beginning of the game, you can either select John Morris or Eric Alucard. While both characters can use secondary weapons, both characters use different main weapons. Alucard's spear, for instance, has better reach than the Vampire Killer, and also Alucard can twirl it back and forth. Yeah, that's it. Come on, you zombies, you stupid shamblers of the night. Come on, you too. Oh, you want some of this? I love this sphere. Oh, and Alucard also has a long jump that he can use, but that's not as cool as the sphere in my opinion. So while Alucard uses the sphere and the long jump ability, John Morris uses the Vampire Killer, a famous weapon from the Castlevania series, passed from Belmont to Belmont. Its reach isn't as good as Alucard's spear, however. Also, unlike Super Castlevania, where you can use the whip in several directions, Bloodlines characters don't have as many directions to attack. John can't whip to his upper left or upper right while standing, for instance. It's still okay though, because as a famous animator who's Grump once said, in this video, which you should totally watch when you're done with this one by the way, that the first Castlevania was built around using secondary weapons. And what a perfect segue for what I'm about to talk about next. All of the classic Castlevania items, ranging from the Battle Axe to the Holy Water, are still in this game, so don't worry, you can still obtain the cross. Boomerang. Sorry, it's a boomerang in this one. Aside from the ordinary secondary attack, you can also use an upgraded version of the item for 3 additional hearts. While this super attack doesn't do any additional damage, it does have better reach than when you would just ordinarily use it. Oh yeah, I forgot. Bloodlines doesn't use hearts. Instead, they're gems you collect. No big difference, just a cosmetic change. So aside from the secondary items, your main weapon can be upgraded as well, just like in Super Castlevania. Both characters can get their weapons upgraded 2 times. But after that, they can get 1 additional upgrade, which makes their weapon all glowy and cool. And also comes with a special item that you can use once. Your glowy upgrade will be lost to you once you get hit, so be careful. Speaking of getting hit, this game is pretty challenging. Like any good Castlevania game, Bloodlines is a tough game to play, and one you can't just tackle mindlessly. Timing your hits and knowing when to traverse the level is key to winning this game. Also, like the older Castlevania games, both characters have a deadly fear of water. And yay! Medusa heads are back! Yay, my favorite! The visuals of this iteration of Castlevania is amazing. Instead of heading towards Dracula's castle like you would in Super Castlevania, you start out at Dracula's ruins in Romania. You can also scale the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Yeah, you heard that right! There is a level in a Castlevania game that lets you traverse the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Cool, huh? My personal favorite level, though, is the Atlantis Shrine in Greece. The atmosphere is pretty cool, and the music? Well, just listen to it. Nice. Before I give out my final verdict, I have to confess I haven't finished this game yet. Although I have played a bit of it, and I thought it would be nice to talk about anyway. Maybe I'll return to this game someday and give it a full playthrough, but for now, consider this a first impression of sorts. And now, onto the gripes. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the more powerful item attacks. All they seem to do is have a better range. In that case, why even bother using them? Also, while the glowy upgrades to the weapons look cool, I haven't noticed a difference in either range or attack power. Regardless, it's still a good addition to the Genesis library. If I've sold you on this game, then, well, finding a copy can be hard. It's not on the PlayStation Network, or Steam, or the Nintendo eShop. I know it was on the old Wii U store, but I'm not sure if you could buy games through that service anymore. Maybe if you could go through the Wii emulation thing on the Wii U or something? If you've got a Sega Genesis, then you can do the usual and look for a copy on either Amazon or eBay. You could also get an emulator and ROM, if you're into that stuff. You are a pirate! Huh. That was new. Anyway, that's Castlevania Bloodlines. Hope you've enjoyed the video, and look forward to my next video next month. Or at least, I would say that if it were Halloween. But since that it's November, look forward to my new video this month. Anyway, take care. Bye! In my restless dreams, I see that town. But too bad I can't explore it because I don't have the proper tools to do so. Oh well, there's always next year. Good night, everybody! No, seriously, that's all there is. No more Stinger. Go away! Slippy needs rest.